Whoa, 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 whoa.
Hello, and welcome to Kamden-adhd. I'm so glad that you are joining us today. If you have not yet done so, please click that subscribe button so you never have to miss another episode. Guys, today I'm really excited to share an awesome resource with you. This is taken from, to be short, Driven to Distraction, the book by Dr. Hallowell. You guys have already probably heard of it. So many incredible resources taken from this gentleman and his expertise. But this specifically that we're going to talk about today are 20 things, 20 behaviors, 20 tendencies that people with ADHD have. And I love them personally because now I can recognize them in my life. I can look for ways to make them easier, to overcome them so that I can be more efficient and more on top of my life. Let's get started. Let's dive in deep and let's have a good time. It is a happy day. I want to be completely honest with you. Of all of the weeks that I have been with you on this podcast, the past 2 weeks have been the best of my life. I touched a little bit on that last week, but I truly feel like I am starting to understand more of how I am supposed to live with this diagnosis and use it as my superpower. I know that that's kind of cliche to say, and that happens a lot. We talk about ADHD as our superpower, but it's not far off, you guys. And I feel like it absolutely is becoming a superpower. It is a way that I can have all cylinders firing all day long. And as I'm learning how to manage that, I can get so much accomplished. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. I'm glad that you are here with me today. I'm glad that we can be together, we can learn together and grow together. Today's podcast is going to be a brief one, and I hope that's okay. I think that, especially with our ADHD minds, most of us tuning in here, that it's important that we keep this short, to the point, and not drawn out. A lot of the time when I'm talking about my feelings, maybe I do get a little long-winded, but I think that in that instance, I just want to be really transparent with you, be really honest with you. And if I'm constantly catching all of my words and overthinking things, then it's going to get less authentic. So about 2 weeks ago, I was looking on my Instagram and I came across an incredible list that's taken from the book Driven to Distraction, Recognizing and Coping with Attention Deficit Disorder from Childhood Through Adulthood by Dr. Hallowell. Oh my goodness, raise your hand in your house, in your car, at the park, if you love this book. To be completely honest, I have not read it yet all the way through, but every single quote, every single excerpt I've seen has brought value to my life. And this list of 25, I guess they are indicators, you could say, of adults with ADHD is amazing. So I'm going to go through this real fast and let's have some fun here. Number 1, a sense of underachievement, of not meeting one's goals regardless of how much one has actually accomplished. We put this symptom first because it is the most common reason as an adult seeks help. I just can't get my act together. I literally said to my friend Sunita today in London, I said, I'm just constantly running by the seat of my pants. And she's like, what does that even mean? She's so cute. The differences, right, in our sayings and our idioms. But I just can't get my act together is a frequent refrain. The person may be highly accomplished by objective standards or may be floundering, stuck in a sense of being lost in a maze, unable to capitalize on innate potential. A sense of underachievement, of not meeting one's goals, regardless of how much one has actually accomplished. We are just not ever satisfied. We just can't ever quite see the progress that we are making. Number 2, difficulty getting organized. Now, I just started listening to a podcast called Organized 365, and she has a few podcasts. I've only listened to the first 2 about getting organized with ADHD. Her children have ADHD, and this was so insightful. Organization is a major problem for most adults with ADD. Without the structure of school, without parents around to get things organized for him or her, the adult may stagger under the organizational demand of everyday life. Now, this is what I was experiencing about a year and a half ago. I had been an elementary school teacher for 5 years or so. Kids came, and then I was a stay-at-home mom, and I found myself sitting on the couch, not knowing what I wanted to do, not knowing what to do, and yet the house was messy, but I couldn't start doing anything. My kids were around, but I couldn't even play with them. Wow. It's a hard time for me to think back upon because I had prayed so long, I had gone through infertility for so many years, and now that I had children, I had a family, I didn't know what to do with it. And I'd never thought of that being an organizational problem, but it is. Number 3, chronic procrastination or trouble beginning a task. We talked a lot about this. That feeling of adrenaline is something that we really like, that feeling of excitement, and procrastinating really gets our hyper-focus in gear. And so a lot of us are not afraid of procrastination. And I put some insights into this in my life. I like to set a timer, and I like to get as much done, like if I have to clean the house, as much done as I can in 15 minutes. And I run around. I literally run from one room to the next since I have recognized that I have ADHD and I know I have trouble beginning. I'll pump myself up with some good music, and then I set the timer and I just start running. And sometimes I'll make a list of things that I need to get done, like dishes, laundry, sweep the floor, vacuum. Other times it's just like, I'm going to be in this room and I'm just going to pick it up. Many projects, number 4, many projects going simultaneously, trouble with follow through. Now, I don't think I'll ever not have many projects going on simultaneously. As an entrepreneur, as a dreamer, that is just how I do it. But this follow through aspect needs to become the big thing. I find this oftentimes when I say, yeah, we should get together with friends. I know I'm not the only one. Or I don't want to say no to something. And so I just kind of leave it up in the air, but I never get around to it. And guys, that actually is really weighty on your shoulders. I don't know if you've ever felt that before, or you've like taken something like that off your list. You've eventually said no, and the relief associating with that is so, so high. So it's not just procrastination. It's not just having multiple projects. It's actually getting the projects to the point that you want them there. And a lot of the time we have projects that we do not like, we are not invested in. It's one thing to not want to mop your floor. I never mop my floor. It's one thing to not want to do the dishes. It's another thing if you kind of have to do it, you know? But it's a whole nother ball game if you have volunteered yourself or signed up for something that you just really don't want to do that you could have said no to. Well, there's not going to be much follow through there, especially with the ADHD brain. Number 5, tendency to say what comes to mind without necessarily considering the timing or appropriateness of the remark. Oh my gosh. Have I talked about this before? I can look back on my teenage years, and I was at church one time, and one of my church leaders, my youth leaders, was talking about an activity we were going to do on Tuesday night. And before I could even think about the way I was saying it, all I said was, "Oh, yay." And that was so not my personality, the sarcasm, the negativity. The weirder thing is that I was actually excited for the activity. I had no idea why my mouth said that. And it was because it started running faster than my brain was putting out, synapse to synapse information. And I remember everybody looking at me and being like, oh my gosh, that was so rude. And this sweet woman, she's very soft-spoken. Oh, I still carry that. I got to get rid of that. But I mean, I was probably 13 or 14, and it was almost, what's the word? Like involuntary. That's the word. It was almost involuntary what happened with my remarks. Number 6, a restive search for high stimulation. The adult with ADD is always on the lookout for something novel, something engaging, something in the outside world that can catch up with the whirlwind that's rushing inside. I love a good adrenaline rush, people.
And if I can do that by being on stage, if I can do that by teaching someone new, if I can do that by going on a roller coaster or learning how to skateboard when I'm 35, I'm going to do it. Number 7, a tendency to be easily bored. I think I've found that this is more in my adult life when adults are being very non-engaging. As a kid, I think I was just really happy to be alive, as a teenager as well. But man, woof. As an adult, it's like, if you're wasting my time, then I'm peace out. I'm gone. It's just, or I just get really annoyed and I'm kind of cranky the rest of the day. Number 8, easy distractibility, trouble focusing attention, tendency to tune out or drift away in the middle of a page or a conversation, often coupled with the ability to hyperfocus at times. Yep, I was just in Arizona maybe 2 or 3 months ago, and I had so much on my mind that I was in the kitchen, and I had been in a conversation with my sister-in-law, and all of a sudden I was staring out her window, and I literally had to shake my head and like, bloop. I was like, whew, too many thoughts. And she's like, wow, where'd you go there? I was totally distracted. I was totally not focused on the conversation that we had, totally tuning out. And I didn't even want to be. And something that scares me about this, not being medicated right now, is the idea of driving. And the time that I have run a red light and I recognized it after the fact because I almost got in a very bad accident, it was my mind drifting. And driving is very monotonous. And whenever you get bored, our brain goes to a different spot. And so I'm not as present as possible. And so that's one of the things that I have become very present about with my driving, is that I know that I'm going to easily get distracted. And so I either have a good podcast on where it helps me focus, so my brain is active in what I'm doing, or good music, or I start, thinking about where I'm going and what I'm going to do there. To many of you out there, that might sound like that it would get me more distracted, but it actually does help me to be present in the moment. It's when I'm not in charge of my thoughts that they just kind of randomly go somewhere. I'm not actively thinking about what I want to be thinking about. That's when I get in trouble. Okay. Number 9. Often creative, intuitive, highly intelligent. Well, thank you very, very much, Dr. Hallowell. That's so nice of you. I love being creative. I've always loved drawing and working in partnerships and teamwork to accomplish goals and projects. And actually, I would say that projects in my elementary education degree are what got me to the top of my class in my elementary school class, elementary educators class. I love, like I said, I love writing music. I love writing my posts. I love making videos, and creativity is just like a given. Okay, number 10, trouble in going through established channels following proper procedure. It says, contrary to what it often appears, this is not due to some unresolved problem with authority figures. Rather, it is a manifestation of boredom and frustration. Boredom with routine ways of doing things and excitement around novel approaches, and frustration with being unable to do things the way they're supposed to be done. So these are the kids you often see are misbehaving. They are the rebels, in the group. They're the kids that can't just get up and go put their books away and come back and sit down. But now they're adults. So they just feel like they want to engage in something a little bit different. It makes them feel better. It makes their brain activate, it makes their body activate, and the same old monotonous thing just is not fulfilling for them at all. Okay, impatient, number 11. Impatient, low tolerance for frustration. Oh, I wish this wasn't me, but it's so me, you guys. It's so me. My oldest daughter has ADHD, and she has tried me, and it's just so ironic. It's so ironic, isn't it, that this whole time I am struggling in a lot of the similar ways that she is. ADHD is a very big spectrum, and at a young age, and she definitely has the hyperactive aspect of that. It has, you couple that with all of these other symptoms that we're reading about. And from the mom's perspective with ADHD, dealing with an ADHD kid, that can be very, very stressful. And so the low tolerance for frustration, I've really had to teach myself and learn some tools to help me through that. And that includes breathing. That includes meditation. That includes reminding myself, you are feeling this way, but she's acting explosive or melting down or whatever because she's having trouble communicating what's really inside of her. You know that feeling because you're feeling it right now. So I have to take a step back. And for me, what I have found is if I hug her and if I hold her, even if she's crying and having a hard time, and you know, she does not have autism. You know, a lot of kids don't want to be touched, but she loves to be held. And that's helped me a lot. I also remember a time in college that I had some very good friends, and we were all going to go for a run, like for a 5K. And we had been training for this 5K, and I was so excited about it. And the person that brought up this 5K ended up dropping out the morning of. And I was so disappointed. I was so disappointed because I had seen the writing on the wall, and it just wasn't a big deal, you know, looking back. But to me, it was a big deal because she said she was going to do it, and she chose to, and said she chose to do other things, including, you know, going out with her boyfriend and stuff, which it's just a 5K, Kamden. It wasn't a big deal. But I remember getting so upset. And it was one of the very few times I have actually verbally yelled at one of my friends, yelled at them. And I was so angry. Oh my gosh, it's so embarrassing. But yeah, I got real fiery, really, really fiery. And I'm so sorry, my dear friend out there. You know who you are. I still feel terrible about that. So I know that that's been with me for a really long time. Okay. Tendency number 12, impulsive, either verbally or in action. Gall, I think that's like almost the same one. Shoot. Impulsive spending of money, changing plans, enacting new schemes or career plans, and the like. This is one of the more dangerous of adult symptoms, or depending on impulse, is one of the more advantageous. I've actually been pretty good about holding jobs. It hasn't ever been a problem for me. I like getting in the hyper focus of the things that I'm doing. I did have a variety of majors in college, and you know, not everyone's going to have all 25 of these. I don't think I'm super impulsive. Sometimes I will change plans last minute, but mostly, yeah, I guess I can feel that. 13, tendency to worry needlessly, endlessly, tendency to scan the horizon looking for something to worry or about, alternating with inattention or disregard for actual dangers. Nope, I don't worry. I'm grateful that I don't worry. I have loved ones that worry a lot, and it's so hard. It can be debilitating. 14, sense of impending doom, insecurity, alternating with high risk taking. Nope, not a huge risk taker. And I don't feel like impending doom. I think that my faith has a lot to do with that. 15, mood swings, depression, especially when disengaged from a person or a project. This was like the biggest aha of all of these. Are you kidding me? I had no idea when I first started this journey that mood swings, depression, anxiety, all those, especially when I'm disengaged from a project, when I don't have anything to do. Think back to what I just told you about me sitting on my couch with all these little kitties running around and not knowing what to do. You know, when I got really happy is when I got to do a home project, when I got to strip the paint on a dresser and sand it down and then repaint it. Oh man, when I got to build shelving in my storage space. Yeah, I just lit up. Otherwise, this is exactly how I felt. I felt okay, and then I felt really, really low, and then I just felt sad, and then I felt withdrawn. Oh, I'm so glad to know that was my ADHD. It's so good to be able to identify that, and it's so good to also have 1,000 projects to bring together this community to help us so that I don't have to feel like that as often. Restlessness. One usually does not see an adult in the full-blown hyperactivity, but one may see in a child, that they might see in a child. Instead, one sees what looks like nervous energy. So this is when you get people tapping or shaking their foot, pacing, drumming a finger, shifting position while sitting, leaving a table or room frequently, and feeling edgy while at rest. I notice that when I'm in an uncomfortable situation, or I'm with people that I do not feel as comfortable with, that all of these tendencies come out. I can't sit still. I'm going to find something to distract myself, to withdraw from the situation. Number 17, tendency toward addictive behavior. Addiction may be to substance such as alcohol or cocaine, to an activity such as gambling or shopping or eating or overwork. I don't drink and I don't do drugs. So thankfully, I don't have to deal with that. I think that I've experienced maybe social media addictions, food addictions. I'm a stress eater. I've often caught myself thinking, why am I even eating right now? Hasn't gotten out of control in my life, thankfully. Overwork, I think, is a really big one. So I don't know if that's going to be addictive behavior in the fact that I'm hyper-focusing or not, but I haven't super experienced number 17 yet, and maybe I won't. 18, chronic problems with self-esteem. I don't have this. I do have negative self-talk that I'm trying to work on. That's just going to be, most people have that. But I feel like I've had pretty high self-esteem. I've known who I am. I feel that my self-worth is high. 19, inaccurate self-observation. People with ADD are poor self-observers. They do not accurately gauge the impacts they have on other people. This can often lead to big misunderstandings and deeply hurt feelings. Whew. Well, that's one that I'm going to need to become an open book about, I suppose. That I'm hurting people and I don't really know it. That's actually come to my attention lately. And that since I've engaged in this newness of my life and I've taken some time for self-care and rediscovery, that I've withdrawn from a lot of friendships that I used to engage in more openly because I've become guarded. And I'm working on that. So, but maybe not being self-aware. I've seen that in other people with ADHD too. I just need to take a look at myself now. Number 20, family history of ADD or manic depressive illness, depression, substance abuse, or other disorders of impulse control or mood. Yes, I do have family members that have suffered in those ways. I guess it's just 20, not 25. Sorry about that. So that's what I got for you guys today. Really, really great list. I'll go ahead and put that list in the comments here or in the description. If you have any questions, please drop them down below, and be sure to subscribe to this podcast and share it with other people. I just feel like the more that we can share with each other, the better the world's going to be. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. There's so many people that have done so much research, and the more that we can get that out there, the more truth we can find. So I'm going to end this the way I do every day and every time I do this podcast. Guys, I believe in you. I know you can, and I know you will.